Hi, everyone. I hope you guys are doing okay. It's a beautiful Sunday afternoon. It's Labor Day weekend. So I'm hoping you guys are having a great holiday weekend. Last week I made a video and it was directed towards teens, teens who are between the ages of 13 and 18, what they should be doing in preparation to leave the cult. All right. So of course, there's steps that they should be, taking and things they should be doing, lining up their ducks so that when they become legal adults, they can leave the cult. And so last week I made a video about that. I thought of some additional tips that I want to share with those teens. And then after I share those additional tips, I'm going to then proceed. We're going to continue that same dialogue. We're going to continue on from the age where you tell your parents that you're 18, 19 years old. You tell their parents you don't want to be a Jehovah's Witness anymore. We're going to pick up from that point and go forward. So it's going to be from late teens, 17, 18 years old until like you're about 20, until your mid 20s or so. So that's what we're going to do in this video. So let's get started. So one of the first things that I wanted to mention, and I don't know, I don't believe I mentioned this last week, but you should definitely research cults. Research what they are, research how they operate, how they recruit people, how they retain members. You should research all of this. There are several different types of cults. Some of them are religious, like Jehovah's Witnesses. Others are, personal growth kind of cults. Others are commercialism, capitalism. Other cults are political cults. So you should definitely research cults. Um, One of my favorite books is by Margaret Thaler Singer. The name of the book is Cults in Our Midst. So that's a must read. I'm going to list all this stuff down below. Steve Hassan has written two books on cults, and one of them has to deal with mind control. And that one was extraordinarily. So it was great. That book was good. And again, all of this will be listed below. Another thing that Steve Hassan has created is the bite model, and it's really a great effective way, a tool to, of characteristics, called characteristics, that you can measure any group you're affiliated with to determine if you're in a cult. You can measure the group's characteristics against that model, and the more they match up, the higher the odds that you are involved in a cult. So again, all of this will be provided below. The links to all of these things will be provided below. Um, so when I talked last week about teenagers, the high school graduates, there was a few things that I left out, and I wanted to address those things as well. So let's pretend that you've graduated from school and now you've decided you don't want to be a Jehovah's Witness anymore. You're going to tell your parents. When you leave, you need to take everything with you the first time. And the reason why is because if you try to go back and get your things, they may not allow you to come back a second time. They may not cooperate with you again. So you need to make sure you have everything with you that first time. So that includes, make sure you have your ID with you. You need to make sure you have your birth certificate, your social security card, your immunization record. In order to get into college, you need to present your immunization record, so please take it with you. Another thing you need to take with you is your high school diploma with your high school transcript. So, if you have a passport, take that as well. You want to take any piece of ID that you have with you. Okay? And so again, it's very important that you don't leave any of this behind. Okay? And we already mentioned, if your parents kick you out of the house and don't allow you to take any of your belongings with you, you leave the house, you go outside the house. Even if you have to use a neighbor's phone, you need to call the police and go back inside and get your belongings. All right, so that's very important. Another thing that I left out was if you are homeschooled, the same rules apply. In order to get into college, you have to present an immunization record and you need to present your transcript. So as you are being homeschooled, your transcript should have been being prepared by your whoever, if it's your parent that's doing the homeschooling, that person should have been preparing the transcript for you. And so there's ways to prepare a transcript online, to generate it online. Um, so again, you have to get that from your parent. Um, I don't recommend you mention to them that you don't want to be a Jehovah's Witness, or until you get all the information you need, until you get all the documents you need. So basically, get your driver, your birth certificate, all the things you need, and then say, okay, now that I have everything, we need to talk about my future, because this is what I intend to do. So that's what I recommend, to get all the documents you need first, and then let them know, you're not going to be a Jehovah's Witness anymore. And so again, they need, if you were homeschooled, your parent needs to prepare the transcript for you. If they are unwilling to give you the transcript, two things you should do. You should contact either Department of Education or, Board of Education. In New York City, it's called the Board of Education. But all right, so that's the first thing you should do. And, let them know the situation and find out what are your options. One of the things they may tell you to do is to get your GED, your general equivalency diploma, and then that way you will have a transcript that you can present to college to get admitted to college. But basically, no college will allow you to be admitted without proving that you graduated, and that transcript is the proof that you graduated. So that's one thing I wanted to mention for children who have been homeschooled. The other thing I wanted to mention too for children who have been homeschooled is that, someone mentioned this, that because they were homeschooled, um, they don't have a um, what you call it, a guidance counselor. So when it comes to like career advice, they're on the fence. They don't know what career they should choose. And it never occurred to me, because you were homeschooled, you wouldn't have access to a guidance counselor. So there's two ways you can remedy this. The first way I recommend is by making a list. The first column is going to be things that you are interested in. So it could be anything too. Video games, home decorating, cooking, anything, sports, anything that you're interested in, sewing. That's your first column. All right. The second column is going to be any skill that you have that you're good at. So if you're good at sewing, swimming, writing, whatever it is, if you have a good aptitude with math, list that in there. Whatever skills you have, that's going to go into the second column. All right. And so now the third column should be a marrying of those interests with those abilities. So for example, if you are interested in sports and you're a good writer, sports journalism might appeal to you. So again, whatever you want to marry those two columns and come up with a job. I'll give you another example. If you like video games and you're good at math, um, the game developer might be a good match for you. So again, you're just matching up whatever skills, whatever interests you have with whatever skills you have to come up with a job. Any job that you're thinking of pursuing, any career, you want to research it thoroughly online. You want to find out what is required to excel at that career. So in other words, are 2 years of education needed? Is 4 years? You need to find out. And so research it. And you want to find out what colleges um, have those programs, you know, which colleges teach those programs. So again, that's what you want to research. I mean, and again, you want to keep using whatever skills you have into, and interests you have, and see if you can make it a career. Let's suppose you have good artistic skills, right? So right there, that you may, just on that alone, you may wish to enter graphic design. Okay, so that's what I mean. You want to try to figure out a career based on that. Another way of figuring out your career, Online, they have the career aptitude test. They're free. Again, I'm going to put links below to all of this information. But yeah, you can take a free online career aptitude test, and you answer a few questions, and then based on your answers, they make recommendations as to which job they think you should pursue. I don't, again, I can't swear or testify to the accuracy of how right or wrong they are, but each person is different. So again, just all you can do is just take the test and see how accurate they are. But either between both methods, you should really be able to close in on a way of finding a job that appeals to you. The next issue that I should have raised last week that I'm raising this week. Sometimes parents get, okay, let me start this way. We talked about transportation last week. We talked about making sure that you had your own reliable transportation to get around, make sure you can get to college, make sure you can get to work. So one of the things that came up is that sometimes parents buy a car for their child. Okay, the car is in the parent's name. So now imagine if you go and you tell your parent, listen, I don't want to be a Jehovah's Witness anymore. Now you've just, made a dicey situation there because they own the car. Even if you're making car payments to them, they still, because their name is on the deed, that on the title of the car, it's technically their car. Okay, so this is what I recommend. Talk to your parents when again, because you're trying to get everything ironed out so that you can get out of the cult and go on with your life. And your parents are going to need to decide for themselves how much support are they going to give you. Some parents say, I'm not giving you any support because you're not a Jehovah's Witness. Again, each parent is going to make their own decision with that. So if the car is in their name, you need to find out from them, number one, can you keep the car and keep making payments? If they are willing to do that, you need to get that agreement in writing. And you need to get as thorough an agreement as possible. So that means what happens if you miss one payment. So you have to get all that squared away. Now, why am I telling you to have an agreement in writing? Because the cult changes its rules every 5 minutes. So even though your parents may be willing, to make an agreement with you for you to go ahead and keep the car and you just make the payments to them, the court may change their rules, and then they call you a week or two later and they say, hey, guess what? The court really got on us about keeping in contact with you, and that by letting you keep this car, we're helping you do something that's wrong. So we've changed our mind, and now you can't have the car. So that's why I say to get something in writing, or make what you really want to do is just make it so that the court can't disrupt your life. That's basically what you're trying to get to. You want to make it so that no matter what the rules change in the cult, your life still goes on as planned. You're still going to college. You're still going, So again, if they're willing to let you keep the car and you just make the payments to them, that's fine. But you want to get that in writing so that it can't be, altered at will, and the car be snatched out from underneath you at the last minute, and now it throws a monkey wrench in your plans. And that's what I find that happens a lot, is that we make plans to do X, Y, Z, and the unexpected pops up. So if we can plan for the unexpected, that'll make life a little bit easier. But that's what I wanted to share for the teens that I talked with, and especially if you're planning to leave the cult. This is stuff that you should be aware of. All right. So now we're going to go to the part for the section for the teens. Let's pretend you're now 18 years old, 19 years old. You've already told your parents that you're leaving the cult. Let's pretend now that they said, it doesn't matter where you're living, if you're living at home or if you're living separately from your parents now. It won't matter. But these are the things you should be doing. All right. So if you're home, then, I'm going to tell you something. It's less stressful. It's less stressful than if your parents kick you out and you have to make your own way now. So, when I left the cult, I lost my mom and my siblings and all my friends. Because remember, I was raised a JW since I was 6. I didn't have any worldly friends. And so I lost everybody in one fell swoop. So, if your parents are understanding and say, well, as long as you keep your behavior good, you can remain at home, then that's not a very stressful situation. However, if you get thrown out of the house, if you have to leave the house, then you're going to find that being separated from leaving the cult, it's going to be bittersweet. And like I said, you're happy to have your liberty and you're free of the cult, but it comes at such a high price that's the part that makes it bitter. That's the part that hurts. If your family is shunning you, it's going to be stressful. So I just want you to, expect that. If you're separated from your family, it's going to be a stressful time. The first few years out is going to be tough. It's going to be an emotional roller coaster. Some days you're going to be thrilled to be out. Other days you're going to miss your family. It's going to be tough. So be prepared for that. Um, there's a former Jehovah's Witness. Her name is Bonnie Zieman, and she wrote a book. It's called Exiting the JW Cult, and that's an excellent book to read. She wrote a second book. It's called Shunned, and again, that's another excellent book to read. And it just helps former members cope with being shunned by their families and the all the things that go with leaving the cult. So that's what that I recommend, reading those books. Um, and again, in exiting the JW cult, the Miss Simon, she mentions that she was upset. She cried daily for almost 3 years straight. And when I read that, I thought of my own circumstances because me, I was angry. I was angry daily for just about almost 4 years. And so, because I miss my family, I miss all my friends were gone. And no one told me all of this. All the information I'm sharing with you, no one shared this with me. So, that's another reason why I'm making this video. So you guys don't have to go through the same thing I did. But that's why it's so important to start making worldly friends before you leave the cult. Because when you leave, if you have no friends or anything, it gets very stressful and you feel very isolated. And the other thing too is you're so angry that who's going to want to be your friend. You're you're in such a state nobody wants to be around you anyway. So if you start making friends first, then that eases the blow when you lose all your JW friends. So again, that book by Bonnie Zieman, I'm going to list all of this stuff below, but it's definitely worth reading. So keep in mind, if you are being shunned by your JW family, it's going to take a while to get accustomed to that. It took me about 5 years to get accustomed to that. And again, like I said, I was angry just about daily for almost 4 years. But once I got past that period, it all began to fall in place for me. I began to get my footing and it got better. So the first few years, if it's rocky, expect that. Sometimes we get Jehovah's Witnesses who say, I'm going back, this is horrible, blah, blah, blah. I miss my family, and they go back. But, so that's another reason why I wanted to make this video. I wanted to tell you what to expect sometimes when you leave, especially if your family has cut you off. It's gonna suck at first, but it does get better. And I promise you, if you hang in there and if you adjust to the shunning, then you're home free. That's the worst of it. And like for myself, I'm so accustomed to the shutting now. It doesn't even bother me. It is what it is. And so I just want to let those who are concerned about the shutting, there's ways to get used to it and get accustomed to it. But and like I said, I've been out now for over 20 years. I've 22 years now, so I'm accustomed to it. Another thing I wanted to mention is, and this is especially I'm in a lot of the XJW Facebook groups. I'm in the XJW Reddit group, and I mention this often. I always say therapy. If you were in the cult for a long time, if you were raised in it or born in it, when you leave, it's really going to take a psychological toll on you, a spiritual toll on you. So you should seek a therapist that specializes in cults. All right. So I have a link. I'm going to list it below. But the reason why I always specify that they should specialize in cults, there are therapists that don't consider Jehovah's Witnesses a cult. All right. And so when a XJW goes seeking therapy and tells them, listen, I was part of a cult, I need your help. And then they say, well, which cult were you in? And they say Jehovah's Witnesses. They know that's not a cult. That's not a cult. They consider Jehovah's Witnesses harmless. And then keep in mind, when you see Jehovah's Witnesses standing at those carts with their literature and stuff, they look harmless. They look pleasant. They smile sometimes at you. They look friendly. They, they, they look like average people. So when you tell a therapist, listen, I was raised in a cult or whatever, some therapists don't accept Jehovah's Witnesses as a cult. All right. And so another thing that has happened when XJWs have sought therapy is that the therapist tells them, listen, you're oversensitive, you're overreacting. And so again, the client isn't really heard. Their complaints about the cult and what happened to them isn't considered valid. Other times what happens is that the client goes in and wishes to discuss about their time in the cult, and the therapist feels that this is not a valid issue, and then redirects the conversation onto a different issue that the therapist feels is at the root of the problem, even though the client doesn't agree. All right, and so a lot of XJWs have sometimes come out of these experiences just frustrated and angry. All right, and so it's it, it's very important that that's why I recommend a therapist that specializes in the cults, because it can be very frustrating to go through a bad experience with the cult and then have that followed by an awful experience with a therapist. So that's why I recommend that. um, Bonnie Zieman has also created a tool to help therapists who are treating XJWs. And so they need to become familiar with that. They need to avail themselves to that. So again, it's very important that therapists, if you anyone who is involved in the mental health profession, if you're watching this video, please, 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 please study up on cults and how they work, because again, Jehovah's Witnesses, they may seem harmless and calm and mild and everything, but they're dangerous. The psychological damage that they do is very intense. So you know, again, please seek therapy. And as far as what the XJW should do, some people, if you can get the therapist to use the tool by Miss Simon and treat you accordingly, that may help. That right. But if they're not willing to meet you where you are, then you should find a new therapist. I don't recommend debating back and forth with the therapist over whether the Jehovah's Witnesses are a cult or not. That's not a good use of your time. You need to focus on healing and not winning an argument. So rather than going back and forth with them whether if Jehovah's Witnesses are a cult or not, I suggest you just get yourself a new therapist. You have your whole life ahead of you. You don't have time to waste spinning your wheels whether on whether Jehovah's Witnesses are a cult or not. And that should be a hands down, no brainer. So that's not a good use of your time and energy. All right. So another issue that comes up is that sometimes people leave the cult and now the first thing they want to do is jump into a romantic relationship. And I never recommend that. And the reason why is, especially if you've been in the cult for a long time, born and raised in it, it takes time to unpackage all the psychological damage that was done. It takes time. And so if you're thinking that, well, I'll just find a boyfriend or a girlfriend and they're going to help me through all of this, you're putting a huge expectation on that person that they may not be, prepared to handle. And even if you say, well, I'll find another XJW boyfriend or girlfriend, the same issue arises. That person may have their own emotional baggage from the cult that they're still dealing with, and you're saying, well, I need you to help me with mine. And so that is not a good way to enter into a relationship. You want to sift through all your emotional baggage and problems with the cult. You want to do that on your own. You don't want to make someone else share that chore with you. It's something you need to do independently on your own, and that's why I recommend therapy. Once you get that portion of your life squared away and settled, it makes going into relationships a little bit easier. It makes it a lot easier, I should say. So, again, you don't want to make the issue of the cult in your life with the cult, the focal point of your relationship. So, again, you want to make sure that you deal with your issues with the cult separately and don't rope someone else into a relationship with the hidden agenda that they're going to help you sift through that whole thing. All right. So another thing I wanted to talk about is the issue of substance abuse. And I call this issue Watchtower's poster child. And the reason why is because when we're Jehovah's Witnesses, and you know this, when we're Jehovah's Witnesses, the elders tell us, listen, if you leave Jehovah's organization, all these awful things are going to happen to you. Satan's world is going to chew you up. You won't have Jehovah's protection. All of these bad things are going to happen to you, right? So now let's suppose you leave the organization, leave the cult, and then you say to yourself, well, I have all my freedom now. I have all my freedom. I can do whatever I want. I can celebrate birthdays. I can celebrate holidays. I can vote. I can smoke cigarettes. I can try drugs. I can drink alcohol. I can gamble. So all this stuff you feel that you're free to do, and so you go to excess, right? So for example, with substance abuse, let's suppose you say, well, you know what, I'm going to try marijuana. It's no big deal. It's prescribed by doctors anyway. It's probably no big deal. I'm going to try marijuana. So fine, now you tried marijuana. Then you say, oh, okay, I'm used to that now. I'm going to try a new drug. I'm going to try a little bit of a reefer. I'm going to try this. I'm going to try that. I'm going to try the next thing. And so you just hop from one to the next to the next. Now, keep in mind, they call marijuana the gateway drug because that's exactly what happens sometimes. It leads you to experiment with other drugs. And we all know there's an opiate addiction in this country right now. Heroin, cocaine, very dangerous drugs to get addicted to because you can overdose on them. All right. So remember what I was saying with the poster child is that Watchtower needs poster children. They need to have a case where they can hold up the person's photo and say, hey, we told you this is what happens when you leave. This person is now addicted to drugs. They're an alcoholic. They almost overdosed last week, and all of this because they left Jehovah's organization. That's the first thing Watchtower. This is how Watchtower uses us when we make bad decisions. They use us as their poster child to say, look what happened, and all because this person left Jehovah's organization. So please don't become Watchtower's poster child. Don't do it. Don't become an alcoholic. Don't become a criminal. Don't get mixed up with criminal behavior. And this is why, because all they do is just use you to scare others into staying in the cult. All right. Again, that is secondary to the damage that you do to yourself, right, and to your own life. But again, all you're doing is just giving Watchtower poster child. So please do not become their poster child. All right, so the next thing we're going to talk about is religion. Some people leave the cult and then they say, all right, should I join another religion? What should I do? This is a personal journey that is going to be different for each of us. Each of us have to, take this journey on our own. The path is going to be different for each of us. We have to figure out what works, individually for us, what works. And then, but the bottom line is we want to get to a place where we have peace of mind. That is where we want to end up, no matter what path our journey takes. We want to end up in a place where we have peace of mind, and that's very important. So for me, when I left, I had anxiety as to whether, what if Jehovah's Witnesses are the true religion? What if Armageddon comes? I knew I didn't want to join another religion, and I didn't want to go back to being a Jehovah's Witness. So when I left, I was really nervous. I was anxious about what my status would be. So but I wasn't going to do anything. In other words, I wasn't ready to make a decision. if you have fear, anxiety, any kind of negative emotion, that is the worst time to make a decision. So put it off. If you can put it off, don't make a decision until you settle down. All right. So for myself, I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. Um, one of the pieces to this came in place very slowly. So, for example, a therapist, a call therapist that I was talking to, um, she mentioned something. She said, I asked her, why do people join cults? Because I don't know. I had something lurking in the back of my mind that maybe I was in some way intellectually, deficient, and that's why I stayed a Jehovah's Witness so long. So I asked her, why do we join? What makes people join cults? And so she was talking to me about it, and she said one of the main reasons that they find why people join cults is because they have a problem dealing with ambiguity, that they need an answer for everything. They don't handle uncertainty well. So they want to know what happens at death. They want to know, do we have a soul? They want to know, what is our purpose? They have all of these questions that they need answers to. And because they can't handle ambiguity, they'll hop from one cult to the next, to the next, to the next until they get an answer. And so, that resonated with me. You know, and she kept talking to me about it, and she told me, listen, what we try to help people realize is that you can have a full and productive life without having all the answers. You don't you can you will be okay not knowing. It's okay not to know. And you can, like she said, you can lead a full and productive life not having the answers to all this stuff. And so that put my mind at ease. I didn't have to, again, as Jehovah's Witness, we're always told about Armageddon. And so when I heard her say those words, that put my mind at ease. I didn't need to know everything. So that was one piece of the puzzle that fell in place. And the next piece of the puzzle would come a little bit later. I was in college and I took a religion and psychology course. And that course helped me see that a lot of the things that I have been taught as a Jehovah's Witness, a lot of the things that are in the Bible are just tales. They're handed down tales. They're not original to the Bible. A lot of them are factually untrue. And so, again, that helped ease the burden of what do I need to do religiously. All right. So, again, so that I didn't feel the need to join another church or to join another religion. So then, the last piece of the puzzle would come. I was watching this HBO documentary, and it was answering the question, why do we worship? And it was bringing out the fact that basically religion was created because to help mankind deal with their impending death. Mankind is the only species that is aware that he is mortal and will die at some point. And so basically religion was created to help us handle our impending death. And so when I realized that, and when you think about it, each religion has some type of belief as to what happens at death. Either, Jehovah's Witnesses believe in the resurrection, some believe you go into heaven, everybody has all these different beliefs. So it really helped me understand that, yeah, that is the purpose of religion, that is just created just to help us cope with our impending death. It's like Karl Marx mentioned, religion is the opiate of the masses. And, by the time I saw that documentary, I had really, that was like the last piece of the puzzle for me. And so all of the other pieces fell in place, and now I no longer needed to worry about this. I had my answers. And so, again, I landed in a place where I had peace of mind. I felt like I didn't need to pursue a religious path anymore. And so, for some people, that answer will work and that will be the end of it. But for other people, they're like, no, I need to believe in a higher power. I need to believe there's something more out there greater than myself. And so if you need that, then your path needs, to finding those answers is going to be different, and you have every right to pursue that path and chase it down. But again, the end point should be you should have peace of mind. That is the most important thing. All right. So that's as far as religion is concerned. Don't rush into anything. All right. Don't feel like you have to replace Watchtower with something else. Just take your time. All right. The next issue that comes up is meaning, purpose in my life. We have people that say, well, I used to be a Jehovah's Witness. Um, the preaching work gave me such a sense of purpose. I felt like I was saving people's lives. I was, you know, I was involved in a mission of some sort, and now I miss that feeling of having a purpose. And so, and I completely get it. I completely get it. So here's what I recommend. When I left back in 1995, when I was a witness, they told us we could, that contributing to charitable organizations was really a waste of time, because whatever the social issue was that organization was addressing, only Jehovah God could fix it. So we weren't involved in charitable contributions. If you notice, none of the Kingdom Halls have like soup kitchens, or they do clothing drives for the homeless. They don't really, do anything to address any of mankind's social ills. They leave everything to Jehovah, right? So I said, you know what? Now that I'm no longer a witness, this is something I can do. This is something I can get involved with. So one of the things that I did was, you know, a few of my family members have died of cancer. So contributing to cancer research organizations was gave me a sense of purpose. I participated in the Avon, walkathon, the breast cancer, walkathon event, and again, that gives me a sense of purpose. I sponsored a little girl. She lives in Mozambique. I sponsored her for about 2 years. And again, that was a privilege. I really loved corresponding back and forth with her. And so again, all of these things are things we can do to have a sense of purpose. We can, choose any kind of charitable kind of work. We can become mentors to kids like Big Brother, Big Sister, or Boys Club of America, Girls Club of America. Um, we can coach baseball or football, little league. Even feeding. Like they have the Meals on Wheels here in New York City, where they feed, you know, elderly people who are homebound, who are confined to their homes. They bring them meals each day. And so there's plenty of opportunities to look for ways to help others, and that's what we need to do. We need to find those opportunities that are important to us, and then, again, that's a way to make a meaningful contribution to society. So again, that gives you a sense of purpose. Um, one of the last things I want to talk about is being protective of your space in your life, and that means you need to be careful who you allow into your life. All right, you're no longer Jehovah's Witness, so you don't have to worry about cult people anymore. Every once in a while, you may get a message from former, like XJWs, or I'm sorry, from your parents or other Jehovah's Witnesses. We want you to come back. We miss you, blah, blah, blah. I really strongly suggest that you do not uh, entertain those ideas. Just let them know, thanks, I appreciate your concern for me, but I'm not interested at this point. And cut it short. You don't need to be rude. You don't have to curse anyone out, but you just need to be firm. And some people say, well, I feel guilty, being that way. I don't want to be mean to my parents or whatever. You're not being mean or rude. You're just being firm. And you're going to need to do that. In other words, you now an adult, and you're going to see, in your adult years, you are going to be constantly placed in situations where you have to put your foot down, and you have to set boundaries, and you have to do that. You want to be sure that you don't allow toxic people into your life. That can be other XJWs who, again, when we leave, sometimes we have bitter emotions and things that spill over. And so that's what I mean. You have to be careful that you don't allow the people to bring toxicity into your life. And so if someone is being selfish or whatever, you don't want to do that. You you don't want to give them space in your life and let them, because you just got out of a cult and you don't want to keep that same routine going where you constantly being taken advantage of or hopping from one cult to the next to the next. So be careful. Be careful with whom you associate with. But so I'm hoping this video helps you so much. Um, again, these next when you leave the cult, you're about 17, 18 years old. You have your whole life ahead of you. So please, the first thing you want to do is lay the foundation for having a career and being able to earn a living. So buckle down during those, if you're in college or in trade school or whatever, just buckle down and learn your skills so that you can have a successful financial future. And I swear to you, I promise you, that is the best way. That is the best way to show Watchtower the cult that you're not a victim. Sometimes we get bitter by what we lost to the cult. Our families, our friends, we get bitter about it. But that is the best way to get revenge is to show Watchtower that you have a full and productive life outside the cult. So I hope this helps. Please feel free to leave any comments below. If you have any suggestions for a video a topic that you'd like me to address or whatever, please absolutely leave suggestions below. I'm open to any ideas you guys may have, and I hope you have a great weekend. Enjoy the week. Have a great Labor Day weekend. Bye.